So I will remain in North Virginia, US East 1 because there are some features in API Gateway that are not available in every region. So if I go to API Gateway, I can see that I can build, manage, and deploy APIs. Now within it, we can just click on Get Started, or we can look at the fact that it's API development, has scaling because it's serverless, and you can generate SDK. So let's get started, and then it proposes us to get an example API. We're not going to use the example API right now because I want to go step by step. So for now, I'll just click on New API. So we're going to create a new API, and this API name is going to be called My First API. And the description, you can put whatever you want. And we want it to be available from the outside from our computer, so we'll choose a regional endpoint type. We'll click on Create API, and we're getting started. So we are in the UI of Amazon API Gateway, and as you can see on the left-hand side, we just created my first API, so it will appear here. If we have other APIs, they will appear in a list on the left-hand side. There are a bunch of options we'll go over in future lectures, so for now, we'll just focus on My First API. My First API is divided between resources, stage, authorizers, gateway responses, model, resource policy, documentation, and settings. It just gives you an idea of how complex API Gateway can be. Thankfully, we're just going to go ahead slow and step by step just to know what's enough to know for the exam. So across the whole lecture, you'll see these blue dots and orange. You can click on them, and this is basically hints. So I'll just hide all the hints right now, just not to be distracted. So this is our root of our API, and there's a / right here. And what I'll do is I'll create a method. And so here we're able to create a method, and the method can be any HTTP verb you may be familiar with. When you visit a website, for example, you have a get. But when you sign into a website or you add data to a website, it's usually a post, and so on. You get all these HTTP verbs. To make things simple, we're just going to have a get. I'll validate it, and here we have added our first get API. Now we get to choose between an integration type. And as you can see, you get already a lot of options. Lambda functions, HTTP, MOC, AWS service, and VPC link. So what I said is that we can integrate with Lambda function, and that's what we'll do in this lecture. But we could also send the API calls to an existing HTTP endpoint. We could mock it if we just don't want to have any programming right now to do. Or we could send it to an AWS service, whatever service we want. So all of them are available right here. Or a VPC link if you wanted to have internal endpoints. For now, we'll keep things simple, and we'll use a Lambda function. We will not tick Lambda proxy integration. And the Lambda region, I will choose the same region as where my API gateway is, so US East 1. And as far as the Lambda function is, we need to create it. Let's go to services, and we'll go to Lambda, open Lambda, and I'm going to create a first function. I'll call it API example root get. And I will just choose Python, but you can choose whatever language you want really with this. And I will choose an existing role, my Lambda basic execution. I'll create my function, and my function itself is just going to return something that I want. It could be a status code, it could be a body, and that sounds about right. I'll just leave this as is. So JSON.dumps hello from Lambda, and here's the status code, and here's the body. Okay, we can just test this function and click on create. Oh, and this is my test event, obviously. Create and test this function. And as we can see, we expect the Lambda to return hello from Lambda. All right, so far so good, right? So this is the Lambda function we're going to reference right here. So I'll just use this one, and I'll have to refresh this page. So let's go back to the refresh page. And this is my API example root get. We'll use a default timeout, which says that my Lambda function should reply to us within 29 seconds. Click on save. And now we're about to give the API gateway the permission to invoke our Lambda function. So everything has to be authorized, and that makes sense. We say OK. Now we save it. And now we can view the whole flow of our GET request. So our client will basically invoke our function. Then we can define any type of authorization if you wanted to. Then in terms of the integration, so where our request goes, it goes to Lambda in this region. It goes straight to the Lambda API example root get, goes back, we can do something with a response, and finally we can map it to a method response. So there's a lot of different modularity here. For now, let's do things simply and click on test. Click on test again. And now we can see that when we do request the slash endpoint, we have a latency of 78 milliseconds the first time, and we get a status code of 200, body of hello from Lambda. So what was returned by our API gateway is what is returned by our Lambda function. So far, so good. We could also see that there are some response headers, and there's a log that was given to us, which is great. So we can see everything that happened at the API gateway level if we wanted to debug some things. So far, so good. We have created our first get method, and that makes sense. You could also create resources. And so the resource name is going to be houses, and we have a resource path /houses. That looks good. We click on create resource. And now within our API, we see that there is a /houses resource. Underneath, we can create a new method, and this will be a get method again. So now we have the get method under the /houses root. Let's go to Lambda, and we're just going to create a new function. We'll call it API example houses get. Again, I will use my Python 3.6. And for the role, I will choose an existing role, which is my Lambda basic execution, create my function. And now I'm just going to change the code a little bit, saying we have beautiful houses. Okay, save my function. And if I go back to my API gateway, I can choose again Lambda function. And we have the region US East 1. And here I can choose, let's do this again, API example houses get. Click on save. Okay. And now we're getting the exact same screen as before. We can test our function and test it. And this time we see that we have beautiful houses as a response. So what was changed here? Well, basically in one API, we have integrated two Lambda functions. And so you start seeing the power of Lambda and API gateway is that we can define for each route in our REST API which Lambda function should be called. Obviously, I'm doing things very simply right now using get, but you could create methods and have any of those and integrate this with Lambda. But overall, I just wanted to show you quickly how we could create an API. What you should know is that there are methods and resources. Resources, again, are going to be path within your API, and you can go as deep as you want. And methods are going to be anything around any delete, head, options, patch, post, and put. So that's it just for a slight introduction. Obviously, there's a lot more options we haven't seen yet, but slight introduction into API Gateway and the integration with AWS Lambda. And I will see you in the next lecture.